Emily, thank you so much for being here today with us and taking a moment. What does that phrase actually mean to you, to take a moment?
I think you could ask me that and it would be a different answer every time. And I think you could ask me 10 times in one day and it would still be a different answer. There are so many different ways to take a moment. I think for me, there's different kinds of rest. You've got like emotional rest, which to me means hanging out with my friends and just being at ease. And then sometimes you need social rest and just to be by yourself and sort of be a recluse for a few days. And then, of course, physical rest, which in some circumstance means exercising and doing something with my body. And then in other times, physical rest means just sitting still.
Yeah. And how do you decide when to give yourself permission to just pull back and take a moment for yourself?
I think that's something I'm still learning about myself. I think I'm a big people pleaser. And so I'm still on that journey of finding that strength in myself to take ownership and be like, no, I need to take a moment right now. But I'm getting there.
Yeah. What's your favorite way to just take some time for yourself?
I'd like to build Lego. That's my favorite way to switch off. I have a huge Lego collection.
That is not the answer I was expecting. And it's the most original answer I think I've heard during this series, so that's amazing.
It's brilliant because you get to switch off and just follow instructions. I mean, it's the same. I enjoy cooking for a similar reason. You just get to do as you're told. You follow the instructions and you get on with it and you get something cool at the end, whether that's a nice meal or whether it's a giant statue of something made out of Lego that I could have on display.
What's your proudest Lego achievement to date?
That's difficult. That is very difficult.
I never know where these are going to go. I love this.
I think my proudest would be, I did the Van Gogh Starry Starry Night, and it's like a 3D version of the painting. And that one is probably my most beautiful.
I mean, that's just showing off because that's, in a way, more talented than actually painting it in the first place.
I think they're calling me more talented than Van Gogh.
In Lego, through the Lego prism I own. Have you got that on display somewhere?
I have indeed. I have a whole shelf of just Lego.
That's amazing. So that's a very tangible, mindful thing you can do to take yourself out of any stresses and strains. Do you find that you can't think about anything else when you're doing that?
Precisely. And also when I'm anxious, which is usually a time when I'd be to take a moment for myself, I'm such a fiddler and I'll pick at the skin on my fingers. And so something like Lego where my hands are busy, something that's tactile is really useful to me.
Have you set yourself any rules or boundaries with things like, do you find social media a triggering thing for anxiety, or do you know what I mean? Did you set yourself rules to keep yourself mentally healthy in that way?
100%. I think as much as social media can be a really great tool, I think it can be incredibly damaging as well. I also find that, and this goes for anyone, it's so strange, just phones, generally speaking, for someone to have access to you 24 hours of the day is so bizarre when you actually sit and think about it. Like I used to get a lot of anxiety for being like, oh God, I haven't replied to that text, or oh, I'm scared that I've accidentally left that person on the scene and they're going to think that I dislike them. And it's like,
do you mind me asking, what age are you?
I'm 21.
Okay, so you probably don't really remember life before smartphones, do you?
No.
And what is that? Is there any way that you can try and explain that to me as somebody who can remember? It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I can remember the time before, and there are things that I miss about no emails and no phones, but you probably don't even have that concept.
No. Yeah, I think I'm the last of the generation of like my baby photos on iPhones or anything like that. I'm on the cusp, but I definitely had a version of a phone. I think I had a touchscreen iPod by the time I was like 10 or 11.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's insane. And kids even younger than that now have phones and access to apps like TikTok or Instagram, which is just feeding such toxic ideals across so many different things. The media is a very scary place. And social media isn't just sort of a window into that, but it forces things upon you, especially TikTok, I find, because it's the For You page. It's not people you follow. You're not choosing to view these videos. You never know what's going to pop up when you scroll.
And it's so addictive. It's just one more. It's weird.
Yeah, I think they call it doom scrolling, where you can just get stuck and you go on forever.
Yeah, it's not called joy scrolling, is it?
No.
It's weird. But you, and particularly in the role you play on Netflix's Geek Girl, you must, and I'm sure you'll hate me saying this, but it's true, you must be a role model for so many young people to look up to. They grew up with those books, they love the show, they really worship you in a way. What pressure comes in that?
God, a huge amount. I think if I were to ever describe myself or view myself as a role model, that for me is incomprehensible and terrifying. Of course, when shooting the show, I knew that there was a certain responsibility, and I think that's important to recognize. However, and the representation, of course, is incredibly important. However, I don't think I could ever view myself as a role model, as flattering as that is when people use that to talk about me. Because the pressure is so unbelievably intense. As someone with a fairly small following on social media, I feel that. So I can't imagine how someone with millions of followers feels.
But on the flip side of that, I can say to you in all sincerity, like you're vocal about your pronouns, you're vocal about your neurodivergency. My daughter is neurodivergent, sort of like quite severe ADHD, and she finds strength in people like yourself who come out and say, this is me, and I've done all of this, and I also have these traits as well. So you, in that way, you are a role model.
Thank you. I mean, I think for me, it's just about, and that's so creating space, because I'm not the first person to talk about these things, but sort of maintaining that space for the next generation of people.
And normalizing it.
Yeah, exactly. Normalizing it and verbalizing things and talking about things and being open about things, which is why I think something like this, the Take a Moment campaign, is so incredibly important.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to people who are really struggling with things like anxiety or stress? What's one practical thing that you know that you do that might help others to share?
Well, I think my main words of wisdom would just be that it gets better, because I was that kid with crippling anxiety. There were days I couldn't go into school because I was so incredibly anxious. I didn't have many friends, and I could never envision myself being in a friendship group or anything like that. And being a teenager is tough. It sucks. And
Yes.
yeah, it really does. And other teenagers can be cruel because their life also feels like it sucks. And I think the main thing is just to know that it will get better and keep holding out, because things are consistently changing and will always change, sometimes for the worse, but know that they will keep changing until eventually it does get better and things will settle. I think my main piece of advice would be grounding. Grounding is so important, and finding out what that means for you, whether grounding is being in the company of friends, or whether that does mean to just be on your own and do something that you love, like Lego. I mean, before I got diagnosed with autism, I had everyone saying, you spend too much time alone, you need to get out and you need to see people and meet people. And I'd do it and would feel worse because I was burning myself out, and it was making me more anxious. And so it's so important to figure out what that means for you. And there's no one size fits all, especially when it comes to like mental health aids. It's not as simple as just do X, Y, Z and you'll feel better.
Yeah.
So it's just figuring out what that groundedness means for you, whether it's journaling or some form of therapy or someone to talk to.
Or, well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So I think a lot of particularly young people convince themselves that what they're going through and they're the only ones going through it. And so it makes it harder to talk about. But as I've gotten older, I realized that the second I tell somebody about something I'm struggling with, it immediately drops away half the stress of it.
Yeah.
Who do you turn to?
I turn to my wonderful supportive girlfriend, Jess. She is the best support that I've ever had. I also ring my mum a lot. Of course, I'm never too old to ring my mum and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you talk me through it? I have an incredible group of friends who I love and adore, there's no expectations within any of these friendships or relationships. It's always just, hey, I got your back and you've got mine. And that's lovely. And again, as a teenager, that's something that I never thought that I would have.
And I think sometimes it takes a while to find your tribe.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think also school friends are so different to the friends that you create who have similar interests. Like like-minded people is such a beautiful thing. And I think in a school environment, you're not necessarily going to find those people just yet.
Yeah.
But they are there, they are out there, and you will find your tribe. And I think that's also tying that back into Geek Girl. I think that's one of the lessons in our show, is that there are places that you won't fit in, but there are so many others where you have people.
Exactly. So don't change you. You've just got to find the right place.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Have I missed anything?
This is so great. We've asked how you take a moment, we've asked advice. No, it's great. It's really good. That's fantastic stuff.
It's perfect. Do you need a picture of Emily, or have you already got one?
Yeah, it'd be nice to do something like I can soften it up and make it look gorgeous. So it'd be nice to do that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to add, Miss?
God, I don't know. There's so much I could say, and can't tell. I could talk about this kind of thing for hours and hours.
Well, it's really. What's interesting is that I was just thinking, oh yeah, this would be great. We could just get a couple of sound bites, and I'm just looking at that, watching the two, and it looks like a kind of 20-minute kind of documentary, like at the beginnings of something.
Well, you might be able to carve it up and use different bits at different points.
So, I mean, I'm using this one here, which is just you, and then this one, which is the two of you. So it's between you two. There's great stuff. So
I love the Lego thing. That's great. That's brilliant. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I landed on the Lego thing when House of the Dragon was airing. I have always loved Lego, even when I was little, but I'd never done one of the sets. And when House of the Dragon first started airing, I went a little bit insane and I was so scared to leave my flat, so anxious all the time. I felt like suddenly everyone was looking at me and all these eyes were on me, and it was petrifying. And I found myself building Lego. I did the Friends apartment set. It's so cool.
Iconic.
It really is. And there was something so incredibly therapeutic about it. And it meant also my hands were busy. I could put my phone down. Because the other thing about Dragon is that it was just everywhere. Like the sponsored ads were popping up in places. And I couldn't ever feel like I switched off from it entirely. And that's how I found Lego.
That must be such a weird thing, because I actually did a podcast for a couple of years called Fame, where it's like literally talking to people about what is it. There's so few of us that understand. Well, I don't. There's so few people that understand what it's like when suddenly your face is on a building out there, and it just changes the way in your head is when you leave the house. How do you handle that?
I mean, I wished I could verbalize it. There's no way of handling it, and I wish there was something. It's something Millie Alcock and I spoke about a lot as the show was airing. It's like there's no handbook. There's millions of people who've had a similar experience happen to them, but there's no way of verbalizing, hey, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to feel, and this is how you deal with it, because it's such a unique experience for each individual.
The reason that I started the podcast, I was inspired by hearing Taylor Swift in an interview say that she sometimes wakes up with a sore jaw from dreaming about being on red carpets and just Richter screening all night. And I just thought, there's only a famous person could have that. Do you know what I mean? It's really weird, isn't it? Wrong.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, and I had a taste of it when Dragon was airing, and then it sort of pitted out, which was a strange experience, but I'm so glad that it sort of had that way.
But then it's such a weird profession you've had, because the way that success is measured is in how big the show is and how well known you are. Yeah. And so that's a bit of that's a tension, isn't it? That's between wanting to do what you do, but there's also that side that goes with it.
Yeah, and I think, sure, there are subtle people who thrive on that, but the majority of people within the creative industry dislike that aspect of it. Yeah. I think, speaking for myself, I love the craft, and I love performing, I love acting, and I love storytelling. And the rest of it is sort of, you just do it because you have to do. And I think, in all honesty, speaking as an actor, I think if someone was trying to become an actor for the wrong reasons, to be famous or to be wealthy, neither of those are, well, I mean, the wealth is gone. substantial. I think
Yeah.
most jobbing actors are just as that. They were jobbing actors. And then the fame is petrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're coming into it for the wrong reasons, you're going to find it less enjoyable and probably won't last very long.
So have you ever been on a red carpet and gone, oh God, this is right now is the time I need to take a moment, take a deep breath?
Every single day. I think carpets are one of the scariest things. They're so overstimulated, especially as an autistic person. The lights and the flashing, but also what you don't see when you look at the picture is everyone is shouting. That's the thing, is there's people shouting.
And you're never looking the right way.
Yeah. I don't know what to do, and then you're conscious of the fact that these photos are going to be somewhere. So if you're trying to speak back, you're going to be caught in an awful picture. No, I think an important time for me to take a moment is before I step onto a carpet and to sort of decompress after the fact as well.
Yeah. So have you got any particular music? Is there like a take a moment song that you know is just going to decompress and help you to feel more relaxed?
Potentially an unexpected answer, but everyone in my life knows this about me. If I'm having some form of anxiety attack or panic attack, the artist that plays is Trixie Mattel, who is a...
Am I too old to understand?
No, Trixie Mattel is a drag queen.
I'm thinking...
And was on RuPaul's Drag Race, but she's also a country artist.
This is a genius mashup.
It's incredible because she's a very talented musician, but I found out who she was through the Drag Race world, as I feel like most people did. And then listened to her music just because I was a fan, but then completely fell in love with her music. And I'm not even a huge country music fan at all, but there's something about it that is so soothing, and I don't know why. And so whenever I'm having any kind of panic or anxiety, my friend will say, someone get Trixie Mattel on now.
Amazing. That's something for me to Google later. It's going to get into Trixie Mattel.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. And I'll say,